In favor, contrary carried. A motion on the minutes. Moved, seconded. Any errors or omissions? Contrary carried. Our next meeting here is on March the 9th here in the council chambers. And we have the Community Bylaws Monthly Report. Carly Williams and Susan Lloyd. Anything to add to your report? Where are we? Everybody's mic is live, so just remember that.
Hi, this is Carly. I have nothing to add. Happy to take, Susan and I are here to take questions.
Okay, questions, hands. Nobody? Everybody's happy with all the graphs and all the content that we've done during this pandemic? Well, great report, seeing none. Motion to receive for information. Moved. Michael, are you?
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Through the chair to staff, just a few quick questions. And I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up for you or for the fire, but I thought I'd bring it up earlier than better. So it relates to parking locations when it's in Hamilton or anywhere in the city. I've heard complaints from people where they're unsure how far their bumper can be close to a fire hydrant. And one of the innovative suggestions I've heard, and I don't know if this has been debated in the past, but can the fire department or somebody paint where the line is, like how far people can actually park up until, has that been discussed? Can that be done? So that's my first question.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, transportation would be the department that would delineate on the curb how far you could park, which is 5 meters. And no, they have not taken that step, but I can certainly pass your concern on to transportation as something to look at.
Great. Through the chair to staff, I don't think I've seen it really anywhere in any community. I'm not sure if it's a thing that happens anywhere, but it makes a lot of sense, and that seems like a simple fix, especially for people who live in areas where parking is a premium, and when they don't get street parking, there is no other parking. There's a few neighborhoods in Hamilton where that exists, where if you can't get one of those street spots, you're done. You're absolutely out of options.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I'm happy to pass your suggestion on to transportation. Councillor Wolf?
And turn the video on if you're answering a question. And because you'll be enclosed, right? So that's when you'll turn everything on.
Gotcha. Okay.
And my next question through the chair to staff it relates to actually garbage on the side of the road. I saw a whole bunch on the way home today. I took a little bit of a different route through the farm properties, and sometimes I see the city, what I think is the city has placed cones, that the typical orange cone, but they say Richmond around it, and they place it there, and then within a few days, they bring the right crew and staff to get that removed from the ditch or from wherever. But today, I didn't see any Richmond cones, and there were so many new piles that I hadn't seen the last time I took Westminster to Seven Road to River Road to Hamilton. So I'm not sure. Is that the procedure the city staff does? So if they see it, someone with a truck puts a cone there, and then reports it to. I know this is more of a public works thing, but I thought it also is kind of dumping on farmland issue.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I think you're correct. This is probably a question more suited to public works. However, in my experience, what I will say is that it is city crews that handle abandoned garbage, and garbage on the side of the road, unless we can identify an owner, is abandoned garbage. And the city crews will endeavor to get there as soon as they can. However, I have seen them do that too. And usually when they put cones around, it's because there's something about that garbage that they're unable to pick up at right that moment. And so they kind of want to secure it. They want to warn people in case it's a hazard. And then they'll get to picking it up. It just means they can't, for whatever reason, pick it up right that instant.
Great. Appreciate the staff comments on my two questions. Thank you to the chair.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, motion.
Yeah.
Sorry, Harold.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Just
this is partly a planning question, but in terms of bylaws, I assume we're seeing quite a downturn in complaints about Airbnbs, and I'm wondering, is anybody doing a study to find out how many have shut down because of COVID-19 or exactly what's happening out there?
Through the chair to Councillor Steve, yes, we have definitely found a large reduction in complaints about illegal Airbnbs. And because of that, we have not filled the 2 positions that Council approved to deal with specifically short-term rentals because we saw that downturn right away. However, we are working on them. We know each file that we open, we are seeing that they are closing up. I don't have the statistics on how many have closed. I can just tell you that we just don't have a lot of complaints and enough files to even keep one inspector busy right now. But we know that this is just temporary. And so we're ready for when travel restrictions are eased, whenever that is, and we'll resume our program. Also, in the meantime, we are still working hard to license sporting and lodging. That was one of the initiatives that Council approved last year, was a licensing program. And so we're sort of focusing, without the illegal Airbnbs, we're focusing on getting the legal operations properly licensed.
Oh, that's fantastic. I haven't had a complaint for a month, so I assume that would be the answer. But thanks for keeping a watch on it.
Okay. Anybody else with questions on the report? Seeing none, a motion. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just wanted to say to the chair, I do have a brief manager's report after we deal with this report.
Go for it. Okay.
I just want...
Let's receive this for information first. All those in favor, contrary?
So moved.
Okay, Carly, you're on.
Thank you. I just wanted to address the emails that are coming into Mayor and Council as well as various staff from one particular member of the public. It is about an address on Buswell, and just to, so it's 6560 Buswell. The individual's name is Yasser Ajvazi, also goes by Richard Gibson. And he's been sending quite a few emails to Mayor, and he sends it into the Mayor and Council email and to a variety of staff. We've been tolerating many of these emails, even though he makes somewhat of a shocking allegations throughout his emails, somewhat disturbing content. But recently his emails escalated, including a threat to city staff that someone will get hurt, was the words that he used. And so I just wanted to draw this committee's attention to it. The RCMP are helping and they're addressing this, and we're leaving it with them. And just wanted this committee to know that this is happening, and obviously do not reply to any of these emails. It's probably quite clear as you get them. It's probably clear not to reply. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to tell you about the details of this specific file. But for now, we switch this over to be a police matter until we can ensure the safety of staff and others dealing with this file.
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, any questions or anything else? Okay, thank you, Carly and Susan. Appreciate it. We go on to item number 2, Fire Rescue Monthly Report with Fire Chief Tim Wilkinson, or whoever. I can't.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing to add to the report, but I'm available for questions.
All right, who's got a question? Michael?
Great. Thank you, through the chair to Fire Chief. Just a quick question. I think I'd mentioned maybe 6 months ago about a fire hydrant on Blundell Road, close to 6 Road. And I'd mentioned that there was one that was sticking out closer to the road than others. And I noticed this last few weeks there's been a cone placed right on top of it. So just like my previous question to staff about city placing cones when there's something that needs to be dealt with, I'm wondering, has this fire hydrant now been identified as one that needs to be moved, or are you aware of this one? So it's between Sidaway and 6 Road on Blundell.
Thank you to the chair, to Councillor Wolf. I'm aware of the situation. I'm not aware whether or not it's being moved by our waterworks team, but I certainly could find out and get you that answer.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be watching and I'll see it if it moves.
Sure.
I also, on the way in today, saw a bunch of new fire hydrants on a flatbed truck coming into Richmond today. So maybe you got some new locations coming in your network. That was all for now. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you. I do want to tell you that the city has one of the very best hydrant systems basically in the world. It's top class.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, a motion on receipt for information. Move seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. And,
Hello?
oh,
Hello?
okay, Carol. Carol.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hi, thank you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on.
Thank you. To the chief, I understand that BC Ambulance is hiring 75 more full-time ambulance attendants. Do we have any idea how many will be assigned to Richmond?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I'm not aware of the exact placement of those positions, but typically they go to outlying areas first. There's a great deal of need throughout the interior and the north, and typically the lower mainland will come last because they have the greatest number of paramedics available to them already. But I certainly could ask the question and see where they're going to be placed.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Maybe you could send us a memo on that once you get it to all members of council. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, it's moved, seconded. All those in favor, contrary carried. The fire chief briefing, a couple updates, Chief?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring you all up to speed on the Red Cross contract where we have the emergency social services now transitioned over to the Red Cross from our emergency programs people. We've already had 2 occasions to use the system, and it's been really a great addition to the services that we're adding to our citizens. And we're certainly going to keep an eye on this contract through this year and bring back a memo to council whether or not to continue with this service. But in the early days, early moments, it certainly looks like a worthwhile agreement between ourselves and Red Cross.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Seeing none. Good. I guess you're on for the next. Emergency programs. Are you doing that, or is Deputy Chief Wishloff doing that?
Certainly, I can do this. We have nothing to add to this report at this time.
Questions? On page 29, 2 pages there. Anybody have any questions or concern?
Move receipt.
Move receipt for information. All those in favor, contrary carried. Thank you very much, and thank Deputy Chief for his report. Okay.
Certainly well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Wilkinson. Okay. Next item, RCMP monthly activity report. Superintendent Willing.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of high-level overview of the report. Property crime, we saw a 14% reduction overall for 2020 in December. Mental health also for 2020 was down 17% for calls for service. What we did see for this COVID year was the assaults. Domestic violence went up by 36%, over half for domestic related assaults on weekends. And also we've noticed there's an uptick in arsons in 2020, which we currently have a task force working on right now. Those are my comments for the report.
Is there any, there's the trend, is there a reason? Is it COVID that's making our break-in entries down, our property crimes down? Or is there something else out there that we don't know about yet?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do believe it's related to the fact that many homeowners are at home
and therefore it's making, of course, targeting residences more difficult, and also with respect to theft of autos and theft from autos. Again, there's more people being at home, taking notice of their neighbors' residences and so forth. So I believe that's had an impact with respect to property crime as well.
And the mental health, is it because of Fox 80, or I guess if you get the number of incidents down, 141 is almost 10% of the total for the year. That's great. But is there a reason? The repeat calls primarily?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe that we've had an impact with respect to Fox 80, who have went out. This is our first year that we've seen a mental health car in Richmond, and they've worked really hard. They've, of course, attend to, at least a half a dozen calls for service every evening to provide the maintenance to some of our mental health clients in Richmond, and to ensure that they're taking their prescription medication, ensure that they're actually being filled, ensuring that they have the support that they need with respect to going to their medical appointments or to get them into medical appointments. That seems to have had a positive impact with respect to keeping our clients away from being in crisis, which has enabled us to have a safer community and also ensured that our officers are safer as well. And so I believe that has had an impact. I do also YVR, of course, because they've also noticed a downturn with respect to passenger volume. And of course, if you recall, over a year ago, we've had a number of mental health calls for service at YVR. So that's also had an impact with respect to our calls for service.
Okay, that's great. The idea of having a social worker onto it with Vancouver Coastal Health, would that have probably further impact if, like you mentioned, missing your medical appointments, not taking your meds, etc. That's pretty tough, but, and thank you for the police officers going out. But to me, that's, if you wish, that's not a policing issue. That's more of a social issue, in my opinion. And I'm just wondering, have we at all, maybe Cecilia, talked to Vancouver Coastal Health about that? The idea maybe of social worker and dealing with these folks, especially if they're repeat people using the service?
Yeah, through the chair, we are going through several avenues. In the close report, we also are commenting to the provincial contract, and one of the topic is mental health, and it's because mental health is a provincial issue, so
okay. No,
we will be going through all revenues.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you very much. I love to see the police cars out there, and I don't even mind to see the red lights flashing, because I know they're making the community safe. Are there any questions? Carol, I see your hand. Thank you. And then Michael.
Thank you very much. So with the Fox 80, the hours are 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Are we getting many calls after or before that? Are we tracking if we're getting any calls, and would those hours need to be adjusted?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Day. Through the chair, we are working with Vancouver Coastal Health with respect to schedules. Initially, we looked at the peak hours for service. Those are the peak hours for calls for service, and that's how we kind of designed our shift pattern. Is to, of course, be on duty during the the greatest need. And so currently we are meeting. We recently had an annual report as to the successes of Fox 80, and we found that it is quite accurate with respect to our current shift pattern. When it, there is a correlation to, of course, the greatest calls for service times of the day. Are there calls that fall out of that? Yes, there is. However, right now we have capacity for two officers and 2 site nurses. If there's a greater need after hours, we will look at modifying our approach and just to cover off those remaining hours.
Fabulous. So basically just tracking it to see if adjustments need to be made. Okay,
yes.
That's fabulous. And regarding the gang-related activity that we experienced recently, I understand that that you decided to have a raised presence in certain areas so that the gang members would know that we're watching. How is that coming?
The feedback's been very positive. We've definitely increased our presence in the city. We currently have gang suppression on every single evening. In fact, CFSU has loaned us resources on 3 evenings this week. They have a uniformed gang enforcement team, and they've been working alongside of our Richmond mobile enforcement team, and we've really turned up the heat with respect to our gangsters. We've put pressure on them through curfew checks. We're looking at bumping up our roadblocks, checking massage parlors, and known businesses that are associated with our gang entities, and they've really noticed us being there. So we'll continue that. We've also brought intaked a lot of valuable intelligence from these checks, and we're just working on a new workflow to channel all that intelligence and make it usable, and so we don't waste any of that intelligence. But it has had an impact, I believe, and we're going to continue.
Well, thank you for turning up the heat. That's what I want to hear. Well done.
Thank you.
Michael?
Great. Thank you through the chair to Superintendent Ng. I think I just have 2 questions. Well, actually, one was about turning up the heat, which I think you've done, and I've seen it. It's evident in Hamilton. It's evident around Number 4 Road, where I frequent. So that's great. The other 2 items were in the news. I believe it was last weekend. There was a major RCMP coordinated with Coast Guard, and they did it with the hovercraft and the RCMP boat, and they did a major bust in Boundary Bay of, I think, over 300 illegal crab traps. I'm curious, were any Richmond officers involved with that? And I think I've spoken about, to you about the RCMP rescue boat or surveillance boat. Was that involved, and did things depart from Richmond to make that happen? Yeah, thanks, Councillor Wolf. Through Mr. Chair, no, I don't believe Richmond RCMP was involved with that takedown. I have, but I can find out more information. But I was not briefed on that particular incident. Okay, great. Yeah, it sounded like it was coordinated with a number of groups, and I know Richmond isn't a boundary to Boundary Bay, but I thought maybe there was some connection there, because I think many of those might have been consumed illegally after being illegally caught in Richmond. Oh, I see. There's definitely a connection there. And then the other one was related to arson. So I know in the report you mentioned the increase, and you verbally provided that as well. In there, it mentioned suspicious fire. But is there a certain type of arson that is in that big uptick? Yes, thanks, Councillor Wolf. Through the chair, we have had a number of increases of arsons. A lot of them are hedge fires, and a number of them were, cardboard propped up against fences and deliberately lit on fire. We have had actually caught one person in the act. That person was a mental health, had serious mental health challenges, and was taken to RGH and certified. And I believe we can reconcile a number of those arson events to this one individual because of the MO. But sadly, there are other people that we're also looking at with respect to causing some of the other fires as well. So we're currently in the process. We have a task force currently monitoring every single arson and trying to reconcile that. And we're going to continue with that, and hopefully we'll have some successes in the near future. But the majority of them have seemed to be hedge fires. I appreciate that, Matt. Thanks so much. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Is there anything else? Any other questions from anybody?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, me too.
Hey, Harold.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. The first one, like I asked regarding Airbnbs, I haven't had any complaints lately about the modular housing and the homeless. In fact, Kate, the person that came to council and used to attack me all the time on Twitter, has spent most of the last 6 or 8 months organizing the Asian community against COVID-19. So the question I've got is how is it all working out from a police perspective, the modular housing and the homeless?
Thank you, Councillor Steves. Through the chair, we have increased our presence around modular housing, and there were initially some complaints with respect to drug trafficking in and around the modular housing. So we've increased our presence. We've had greater visibility in the back alleyways around modular housing. Again, there are, some complaints about drug using, maybe around or outside, and so we've been trying to tackle some of those issues.
So you pretty well got it under control then, because I was getting complaints about the drug use, and I'm not getting it anymore. Anyway, the second question I've got is, I was just reading online this morning that they've done a survey of the RCMP in Surrey, and the vast majority don't want to hire on with the new police force, and some of them are looking at coming at Richmond. Now, we've agreed to increase our police force, and I'm just wondering if you'll be able to tailor the hiring of new police officers to when some of these police officers from Surrey are available.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Steves. We have actually seen an uptick of interest from Surrey RCMP. But having said that, they also have to look at right now whether they can release those officers or not, because they haven't made a decision whether they're going to. They haven't commenced hiring of the junior ranks to the Surrey Police yet. So of course, if that hiring doesn't start, they can't release any officers because they still have to police the city of Surrey. However, there has been a strong interest from some of the officers from Surrey.
Okay, I guess the question I've got, and with my fellow councillors as well, we've put more police officers in this year's budget, but it seems to me you don't have to spend the money right away if it looks like that you'll be getting some really good police officers coming later on. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that take it in your good judgment how you deal with it.
Thanks, Councillor Steves. We have very qualified officers from Surrey applying for Richmond, and we're currently looking at some of their applications.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? All right, seeing none. Received for information. Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, contrary, carried. Okay. Any items for briefing? Will?
No, Mr. Chair, no items.
Okay. We have managers report.
Through the chair, I was just going to provide the outcome of the outreach that the RCMP has done over the weekend in Hamilton. We had 45 people attend the event, all COVID physically distanced, and actually one witness came forward through the event, so it was a very successful event, and it's one of the first time that Richmond RCMP has done that type of outreach, and I anticipate we'll see more of that as appropriate because of the success.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, any questions? Okay, thank you. Alexa, you're on the command vehicle. Floor is yours.
I'd like to make a referral that we direct staff to work with police, fire, and emergency programs to provide options on what kind of vehicle, what kind of instrumentation, and what kind of equipment to include, and also give some comparisons with other local municipalities and what they have and the cost of those, and look at some funding options, including, but not limited to, community and corporate fundraising options that we might be able to do. So.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, any
and that's, if I can just
go ahead, keep talking.
If I can just speak a little bit more to that. I've been certainly talking to police and fire and different groups and hearing what they have to say, and I've heard that the $1.2 million option that we have that was presented to us is not necessarily everybody's first choice if it means not having a vehicle for some more years. So. And I've also heard that there's other options available out there. And so it would be good if we could understand what the other options are, because I think, we've heard about all this extra drug activity. We've got the Alderbridge House. We're looking at opening yet another one of these supportive housing. I think we need one of these command vehicles where you can park it in front. You can have a big police presence if you need one, or you also have the ability for the police or the fire, whomever, to do the work that they need to do on site.
Okay. Any questions, discussions on it? Carol?
Oh, sorry. sorry, not on the vehicle, but I had another item I wanted to ask.
Okay, we can do that after this. Anything else on the command vehicle and referral? All right, all those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Thank you. All right, Carol, you're 6B.
Thank you very much.
6B.
I love it. Thank you very much. I just had a question of staff. I'm getting a lot of letters from citizens that are concerned about a lot of lighting on the outside of new houses and light pollution. Is this a bylaws issue, or is this a planning issue, or is it both?
To the chair, we don't, as far as I know, we don't have a light pollution bylaw. I will have to check with Metro Vancouver, and I will check with planning staff and get back to you.
Okay, perfect. I think this group is planning on coming forward and reaching out to our clerk, Claudia Jessen, to request an audience with council. So,
Okay,
thank you.
I had brought that same issue up with Wayne Craig, and it is has to be probably dealt with at the development permit panel, but we have to identify what kind of lighting we're talking about, whether they're searchlights or somebody leaves the lights on all night or whatever. We got to be more specific. I've received letters as well. That's why I went to Mr. Craig, and I think we can come up with our own bylaws. My comment was some of these lights, other than security lights, should be shut off at 11 o'clock. We're wasting electricity, and we should be preserving what we have. So I'm wondering if we should make a referral on this, as opposed to, so it's done either here or at planning.
Like I said, I believe the citizens group is planning on making a request to speak to council. So maybe before we do that, we should hear from them to see what
When are
their
they going to do this? Is this
I understand
all
on behalf
company?
of, yes.
Okay, I've been speaking to him as well. All right, we'll wait till he comes, but I've already given Mr. Craig a heads up on it. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Anything else for the good of community safety in Richmond? Stay safe, be calm, and
Through the chair, there's closed community safety.
yes, I know.
Close.
But I
Okay.
put this in
All right.
public. Okay, I'm got it. Yeah. I'm ahead of you.
Move adjournment.
Anything else? Move adjournment? Move seconded. All those in favor, contrary, carried. Just give us a minute to lock the door.